Welcome, everybody, to Struck by Enlightenment. I'm Kristen Bomas, your host, and joining me today is Michelle Smizik, Joshua Roberts, and Marko Ruffalo. And all three of them were on the podcast earlier, and each of them spoke about a drive in their lives that stood out as very magical to me. But they also all have career paths that are unique. And so I thought maybe we'd pull everybody together, give them a chance to talk about their lives, a little bit about what got them where they are today, and where they find the joy in all that they're doing. So would each of you like to take about 30 seconds and say a little bit of something about yourselves so that our audience knows who you are?
Ladies first.
Oh, well, thank you, gentlemen. Sure, I'll definitely go first. So, yes, again, my name is Michelle. I got my theater degree from Florida Atlantic University, and I've absolutely loved it. What's great about a theater degree is it can take you into so many different aspects of life. And with that, I'm actually now bartending, randomly enough. But what bigger stage is there than a bar? So that is what I'm currently doing, and that's how I'm using it right now.
Great. Josh?
Yeah, my name is Joshua Roberts. I served 20 years in the Air Force, retired back in 22. And now I do it's a combination of leadership coaching, and then I also do life coaching / mindset coaching. I have a book coming out here in a few weeks on leadership that I wrote. So excited about that. But honestly, still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up and how I want it all to work out. But I made that big switch from the military to a coaching career and just enjoying every second of it, honestly.
Fantastic. Marko?
Hello, everybody. My name is Marko Ruffalo. I'm a record producer and music technologist, a church musician, and a deacon, technically an archdeacon in the old Roman Catholic Church. And I've been in the music business for over 40 years. I used to be a high school teacher. I taught theater sound at Spanish River High School in Michelle last year. Yes, and I taught also at Dillard, where they also have a theater, and taught theater sound and recording arts there. And math, but that's boring. Yeah. That's why I'm 30 seconds younger.
It's interesting. You all have this left brain, right brain thing going that's really cool. All of you do.
That's true, yeah.
I really want to see if we can kind of talk a little bit about that as we get into this. So thank you all for being here. I have a question for each of you. What do you feel is the greatest asset to your being, to who you are, after having all these career experiences and gone through everything you've done and brought you to the point that you're at today? What do you think your greatest assets are?
Gentlemen?
Ladies first.
I need a moment to think on that one. So, yeah, gentlemen, if you have anything.
Yeah, it's not an easy question.
Well, Josh, we've heard a little bit. It was discussed in the last podcast. So,
yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. My brain is kind of spinning on that one. So I think my experience, the way that I grew up, my parents were religious missionaries. I grew up in the country of Mexico, and that gave me a lot of exposure to other worldviews. Having traveled all around the world with the military, I've been exposed to a lot of things, and I think it opened up maybe the aperture of what I would consider to be normal versus what other people would be. I think I'm a naturally curious person. Like, I always want to know why things work the way they work. I want to understand why people think how they think and like why they came to the decisions that they do. I guess maybe, I don't know, I consider it an asset. I don't know if everyone else does, but I'm pretty brutally honest. So that served me well in the military. It also serves me well as a coach, but I've always been a very sensitive person also. And so trying to maybe combine the sensitivity, but at the same time being willing to tell people what they need to hear, not necessarily what they always want to hear. I think that's one thing that God has gifted me with, and to be able to do so in a way that I don't necessarily just crush people, but also have the ability to build them up. I think that's an important aspect of coaching. And honestly, it was not something that I focused on in the military that I wish I would have, was the building up piece. But over time, as I've kind of evolved as a person and as a coach, I think I think probably those things. Just I'm curious. I want to learn things, and I have no problem telling people the truth, but at the same time, also encouraging them and building them up. So that's probably where I would be at.
Yeah, those are powerful pieces. Marko?
Well, is Michelle fucking it yet?
I mean, I can go if you'd like.
Well,
Okay.
Tessie
Yeah,
Kristen's
I'll
the
go.
host, so.
I know this. It's the baton.
So an asset, I mean, just listening, I really liked what Joshua said about, being curious about things. And I really like that. And I feel like, I don't know how to word this in sense of an asset, but I feel like it's very easy for me to allow people to get comfortable very easy with me, which has been really great on stage. Because it allows people to immediately get comfortable thinking that I am that person, that you believe in who I am, believing in all that. And then also in bartending, it's really nice because people feel comfortable coming and sitting and talking to me and wanting to engage. And I think that that's an asset and it allows people to just get comfortable, to want to open up, to tell me their deepest, darkest secrets, which I love. But it's just like that, I think. I love that I can go to a party and find anybody and make them feel comfortable. And I start to know their entire past. And I'm like, this is great. I love this. I love your story because I love people's stories. So I think that's however I need to word that. That's an asset, I think, for me.
That is true about you. Yeah,
Next.
it is. Marko?
I guess certainly a lot of knowledge under the Testa, but it's really I'm a door opener. I have discovered, and you know this, right, Matt? How many team members have come and gone from people? Michelle, you're right. You have a tendency if you listen. I'm sure Josh, you do too. When you start listening, somewhere there's this little memory place that stores it, and later on you're like, wait, hold on, I know a guy that can handle that. That kind of thing, and I've discovered it really does make people's lives easier.
Yeah.
Just from a simple opening of a door, or maybe a window to throw somebody out of. I don't know. so but that's it.
I think all of you open those doors. I think that really what each of you is saying, that through your curiosity, through the way that you make people feel comfortable, you're opening doors, you're opening them. And so each of you has that asset. There's something about you that not only is opening other people, but there must also be something inside each of you that opens within yourself because you've been willing to really look at career paths that are similar and yet different, and how they give balance to you. Each of you talked about, not just now, but that male, female energy, the feminine and the masculine, the right, the left, right? Like, how do you really pull this all together? And each of you uses a balance of your left brain and your right brain. And you each said that in your assets, which I think is also really interesting. It really pulls that idea together of, when we really start to find balance in our own lives, do we find that our assets and our truth, those aspects of our self beyond just our identity, do they start to become more prevalent, more available for the people around us? I think as we know ourselves, we start to really know other people better. And each of you is so good at opening up the person in front of you. Each of you has a sense of humor and a way of really looking at other people and opening them to what is. And so, yeah, there is that. It's interesting that of what each of you spoke about, there is that common thread. So clear. Anybody have thoughts about that before?
I mean, Michelle, I know you can laugh at yourself.
That is true.
I know it because I caught it so much podcast. Josh hinted at it in his, but I definitely know that you can laugh at yourself. And I think, Kristen, that's the first part. As soon as you learn how to laugh at yourself, it's so much easier to understand people. Because you're laughing at yourself because you understand yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you're laughing at yourself, because you loosen up the seriousness, you loosen up the seriousness in the way you might judge or see other people. So yes, I think that is a beautiful asset as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because I think what you're saying is, I never judge anyone. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a past. We've all been through things. We've all made mistakes. But that's what's made you who you are today. And Joshua, you actually touched on this as well, like the psychology and like why do people think the way they think? It's partially why a lot of theater people go into psychology as well, because that's the root of it. We are so curious about people, why they do the things they do, how they get into these things. So yeah, I absolutely can laugh at myself. I make mistakes all the times. I fall down. I do all of that. So like, but yeah, I think that's a real key to it. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's interesting. Any thoughts, Josh, before I spill the DJ?
I mean, I've always said that, I have literally failed in every area of my life. I mean, there's not a single area, whether it's, as a husband, as a father, in the military, it didn't matter. Like, to be able to look at yourself realistically. You know what I mean? Like I'm not the best at anything. I'm good at several things, but I'm not the best at anything, and I can accept that. But in a certain moment, I could be the best person for that moment. You know what I mean? And just being able to really accept, like, I have my limitations, and so I can laugh at it, because at the end of the day, like, if you take yourself so seriously, that's actually a huge turnoff to people, I think. I don't like being around those people. I'd much rather be around a bartender that can laugh at herself, because it frees me to laugh at myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or to be around a position, someone in a position of authority that lightens the mood immediately by accepting that they're not the know-it-all on everything either. And so, for me, like, the sheer number of failures that I've had essentially built the man that I am now, because I guess I never allowed it to stop me from moving forward. I tried my best to learn from each one of those things, right? But because of that learning, it makes me want to be able to share that with other people. Like, you can do that if you want, but if you do, in my life, this is what I experienced. And I think it just adds a degree of authenticity that people are yearning for, where it's not coming from a theoretical, like, oh, this book says it. Like, no, in my own life, this is what I did. This is how I messed up. And you can take it or leave it. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I approach it. So
it's interesting listening to the three of you talk about this aspect, because it takes competition out of it, right? A lot of people are very competitive. Am I good enough? Am I right enough? Am I as good as he is? Is he doing better? Is she doing better? Who am I in comparison to? And those are all forms of competition in one way or another. And so when you start to really laugh at yourself and you realize you're not ever going to find success without failure, you're just not. And you start to embrace those failures, whether it's with humor or just genuinely going, all righty, there that goes. And I certainly learned a lot out of that, and I'm going to keep right on going here, right? And so whatever that is, we've all had them. I've had some pretty grand failures. And as we come through those, it humbles us. But it also teaches us the absence of competition, and how it isn't about being better than or winning or getting ahead of. It's about knowing ourselves and staying true to our rhythm, to our goals. And it's kind of going back to your podcast, Michelle. It's like 90 days. I'm going to do this for 90 days, no matter what. I'm going to do this. Like, who were you really competing with? Nobody, right? You were just doing what you thought you were supposed to do. And that drive is all that kept you going. And for 90 days, you kept doing it. And my head was spinning on the show going, what the hell is she thinking? But you did it, right?
Like, I did it. I did complete it. Yeah, I did complete it.
Yeah,
it was incredible. It was honestly the best mentally. That was the best part. Have I worked out since? Not a single time. Not a single time. Okay. And it's okay. And I'm okay with that. I was like, I'm going to give myself a couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple months.
It's turned into months. It's okay. It's okay. Like, I have accepted that, and it's okay. I do want to add on, though. I think, just speaking about competition, I think it's really hard nowadays, because people are so competitive, whether they realize it or not, because of social media, because everyone keeps putting their best selves out. So me and my husband and my two kids, we're all like, there's no dirt on the faces, and we're out and we had the best dinner. But mind you, like, behind the scenes, it was really, the kids were screaming, no one has shoes on, there's drool, like, and I cried the whole drive here, right? Like, that could be, but all you saw was this picture at the end. And it's just like, they see the photo and they're like, why can't I be like her? Why can't I be like him? And that's also that competitive side, because there was so many failures to get to that perfect photo. And that's what people don't see. And that's really hard right now, I think.
And that,
I would
again,
completely agree with that.
Yes,
it's interesting. I watched a documentary on Netflix about, there's a guy named the Liver King. And like his whole thing was selling supplements, like getting back to your ancestors. And he would just eat like liver, heart, and all this. He's a huge deal for a while. And he would take 180 takes just to get
Oh,
a 20-second clip, right? You know what I mean? Like, and I
yeah,
think social
exactly.
media, social media has created this weird. I have
Perfection.
friends that are very into something called 75 hard, right? Which 75 hard, a lot of people do it. They do. It's you
That's
work
what
out
I
twice a
did. Yeah,
day.
I did the 75
Yeah,
hard. That's what it was.
yeah. So 75
Yeah.
hard is great, but if somebody doesn't want to do it, like all my friends do it, and they're like, "Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "In absolutely no universe ever do I want to do that." And they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I like whiskey." Like I don't like I don't feel the need to prove to myself that I can work out twice a day because I've been doing it for 20 years. I mean, I was a drill
Right.
sergeant. I've proven to myself I can do. And I even went the month of January without any alcohol because I wanted to prove to myself I don't need it. But the moment January is over, I was like, I'm glad to have my bourbon back. Like, because I like it. It's something I like. But like the moment it turns from like, oh, she did it. Now I have to do it. And you start
Correct.
guilt tripping other people into making them feel like they're less than you because they haven't. I think that's where it
Mhm.
gets really dangerous. And as a
Mhm.
coach, like that's actually something I focus on a lot is our focus is so much on everyone around us. Everybody's got the
Right.
binoculars out and it's like
Yeah.
maybe pick up a mirror and take a hard look
Yeah.
at yourself because
Whoa.
that's where most of our discontent comes from. I mean, I'm a perfect example. Growing up, my mom and dad made very clear that I was a fat little kid. And so my whole life I've had this weird like it drives my wife
Oh,
nuts because it's like, oh, I gained 2 pounds. And she's like, I can't see it. And I'll get really like upset about it. And the reality is, the past 2 days, I went down to Denver, me and my buddy, and we went to Rockies games against the Blue Jays, and we ate like garbage for 2 days. And I knew, like, it's fine. I didn't take workout clothes to go work out in the gym at the hotel because I was
no.
like, I need to prove to myself, like, just live life and enjoy it. And it's been so much more freeing just to
Right?
not feel that way.
Right. You take that competitive edge out, which is an internal piece in this case, right? And it's very well said. Thanks, you guys. That was very well said. It's interesting how we start to get to the other side of that and how freeing it actually is because the competition really limits us in so many ways. So, all of that being said, if you had to think about everything that you've been through in your lives, and how where you are today, thinking about where you are today and the history that brought you here, what's the greatest question that you would have about feeling fulfilled in your professional position? Like what, like maybe it's your question, maybe it's a question that's been asked you, but what is that about? If you feel truly fulfilled, why? And if you do, but you think there's more, what's your greatest question? So, what is it like to be really fulfilled in your career and in your, and you guys can take it even one step further than that because we're talking about more than just career here. We're talking about ourselves and our expression of self in career. And so, I personally rather hear about feeling fulfilled within yourselves more than just your career because that's my gig. But you can come from any angle.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, I don't have easy questions.
No.
I was watching the other day. There's a guy named Scotty Scheffler. He's like the world's best golfer right now, and he was talking about how when he won this major tournament, he always thought that when he won, it would make him feel a certain way, and he won. And then he's like, the next day, we just went back to practicing. Like there was no. I mean,
Right.
I've heard the same thing about guys that won the Super Bowl. Right? It's like we won the Super Bowl, we partied, and
And
then
then
it just the next day it went away. And I felt the same way in the military. It's like you work and you work and you work to get to a certain title or a certain rank, and then you get there and you're like, there's no fulfillment. And so for me, I think it comes down to a couple of things: the outcomes you want in your life. Like I'll tell you straight up, the outcome I want in my life more than anything is I want my children to want to be around me as adults. Like
Wow.
right. And so for me, like what do I have to do to get to that point? Like when I could make millions of dollars and I think I could feel just as unfulfilled as I did before because you always want more. And for me, like that fulfillment comes from what are the outcomes that you want? And then what are the values that you are actually like aligning your life with? Because if
right.
the value is money, then maybe you will feel fulfilled. If you get a certain amount. But if the value is family, right? Like that to me, like that changes everything. And so being around my children, or hopefully in the future, my grandchildren, that's the goal that I'm shooting for. And so I think maybe even that fulfillment, it's almost a daily thing, like where you have to decide for that day, like what do I need for today? Because me in 5 years may be different. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Tony Robbins now is not the Tony Robbins from 15 years ago. And so what fulfills him now may be very different. But I do think like asking yourself, like, what is the outcome that I want? And I know in my brain, like, I want my children to want to be around me. That has shaped how I'm evolving as a person, even with my personality. Cause I mean, Kristen, you know, like I can be a pretty intense dude. And that can be really off-putting to people. And so I've really been working on like, I don't want my grandkids to describe their grandfather as intense. I want them to describe me as like he's a tatted up dude that drinks scotch, smokes cigars, rides a Harley, but he's fun as hell. Like that's what I want. Like that's who I want my grandkids to describe. So not he's a super stern dude that was really good in the military. You know what I mean? Like, does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah. Hell yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah. What are you thinking, guys? Marco?
It's weird, like thinking since the dimension of this is certainly career oriented to some extent, right? Or juggling two careers, I suppose, juggling two vocations is probably how I would look at it. Um, I don't thinking about. I'll start with the faith side of things because it's easier, you know. So, Josh, you grew up, I'm assuming, as a product with Protestant missionaries. Your parents were Protestant missionaries.
Yeah, they were. It's probably
Yeah,
the closest would be like Baptist. Yeah.
yeah, right. So, as an old Roman Catholic deacon, certainly to see people grow in a close relationship with Christ would be, a fulfilling thing if I had any part in it whatsoever. But truth be told, is my role is, I'm more of a background guy for the church. I'm what's called the chaplain to the House of Bishops. So I've got like 7 bosses, basically. They're all bishops. I keep the ball rolling with things like they're called canons, which are rules and stuff. It's fulfilling in a sense that it gets done from, any way that I can, whether it's from the left or right wing perspective. But certainly, within that is, like I said, seeing people's needs met. Now to flip that into the artistic things that I'm involved with, and you're right, Josh. I mean, for us, it's and Michelle, I'm sure for you, how the production is, how hard you work, how many practices and rehearsals that people have no idea. And then the show happens and maybe it's a week long and then you rest, but then it's the next show, right?
Yep.
Right. It's the next game. It's the next this, it's the next that. For me, it's the next record, or it's the next studio I'm building. I build one studio, it comes out great or it comes out near great. I'm satisfied for the moment. Records are a little different because the truth be told is music is timeless. It can be, certainly with the age of the internet, it will be. And to think that when you're working with musicians or songwriters or all of the above, that's coming from within their soul. And if it's captured magically on some form of recording medium and presented at the very least in the way they thought, or even exceeding that, that's great. The difference for that one particular thing is, I guess I get to go back and listen to it all over again. Maybe with fresh perspective or not. But if it's done correctly, it's still satisfying. It really is. And there's a dimension of fulfillment in that I know that I tried my hardest to get what we had and we achieved it. If we think about it from, what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization being the highest. I don't know if I go so far as to say I feel self-actualized by making that record. Kristen, you know better than I would. But, I guess to some extent, and maybe Josh, you can relate to this, and Michelle, you can relate to this, right? Whether it's somebody taking your advice, whether it's at the bar or it's in an office, right? And you see them and maybe they're skeptical. I don't know. And the next thing you know, they come back to you later and said, yeah, man, it worked. It was a game changer. Does that fulfill you guys?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of came to a realization where like, I don't chase money. Like I chase impact because impact is where I feel the most, no, I guess the word fulfilled. I feel the most fulfilled when I feel like I'm making an impact.
as you're listening to us all talk about this, ask your own self, what would it be like inside you to experience complete fulfillment in your life? And what does that look like for you? And I think one of the things you're going to notice as you look inside yourself and ask that question is that, in fact, it can't be the money, because the money is a source. It's just an energy, an exchange that gets us to what we want to experience. We talked about several external things that bring fulfillment to us. External things being, it could be people, it could be an achievement, it could be whatever. I don't think we've really used achievement in this group because we're looking at things very, very differently. But as we look at that, yes, that's going to bring fulfillment, but it's not a state of fulfillment. So I would challenge each of you as you go forward to think about would it be like to live in a state of fulfillment. What is it that you think you were going through as an individual as you moved from one career to another? When you stepped into your first career, when you stepped into the way you're living your life today, Josh, for you, what was it that was going on inside you when you made that choice to be the man who is the father, who is the friend, and the man who everybody wants to hang with in your older years when they're old enough to not be parented any longer? So each of us has that piece, right? Michelle, did you get to answer that question?
No, but it's okay.
You flipped out.
Yeah.
I know. That's when my camera said she shouldn't answer.
Yeah, no, answer. Answer, and we'll have Drew flip it in.
Okay. It was about. I'm going to answer. This is what I was thinking before. I'm pretty sure. I think this will work. Let's see what happens. So for me, being fulfilled is I feel like I'm an extroverted introvert. So that's why it was like theater always worked out for me, because I loved that aspect of becoming someone else. So I'm putting myself out there, but I get to be someone else. So that was like that little mix. And now going into hospitality and going into bartending, it's the same thing. I'm going out, I'm having these conversations. I look like the most social person you've ever met in your entire life. And everyone's like, where are you going after this? It's probably going to be a late night. And I'm like, it's 24 hours in my bed. That is it. Like, I can't do this anymore. It's just like, that's it for me. And my battery gets drained so fast, but I get fulfilled by being home, recharging, being with my husband. That's it. And that's what does it for me. So it's this balance that I'm always trying to figure out of, okay, I want to go out and do something. And then it's like, oh, but I work all day tomorrow, So it's just kind of trying to figure out making it all work, being both. It's becoming, as I get older, I'm becoming more and more of an introvert. So that's been interesting. But it's really just trying to figure out that balance of going out, doing my job, still making time for my friends and family, and making time for myself, because that's what's going to bring out the best in me. And that's how I'm going to be the most fulfilled, is making all those relationships work.
Right. So so in that fulfillment, then we also have this element of balance. And so, Michelle, you bring that to the table quite beautifully, that when we have that sense of balance within us, we have a sense of fulfillment. Now, how far we can take that is up to each of us. That's the mastery aspect of it. Do we want to live a completely fulfilling life where, we're not chasing anything external? There's just a sense of absolute joy and comfort and hate to use fulfillment again, but fulfillment with themselves, right? So you have to really think inside yourself first. What is that going to feel like inside you? You may be seen by others. You may affect others, but you're still the individual living the life. And so that fulfillment comes from a series of places for each of us. What are you thinking, Marko?
It's interesting because the word fulfillment, right? Like it seems to be that word that we're working on. And I'm thinking to myself, like in terms of its subjectivity, right? As if we're the only ones who really can decide it. But you said state, right? State of fulfillment?
If we're the only ones at stake?
No, you said something about state of fulfillment, right? That was the next question coming up, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, what does that even look like?
Right. And there's your challenge.
Right. I mean, I guess it's the weirdest thing because, like, how long does anything in this world last? Everything's temporal to some extent, right? So I always feel like human beings are always chasing to try to remain in a particular state of peace, but it's impossible to some extent.
But if you're chasing, are you in a state of fulfillment?
Probably not, unless it's part of the journey to get there.
Correct.
Then I'm okay with that. In the same way, Joshua's brought up a lot of great points about things from his past. And on his podcast, he used the term failure a lot. And I wanted to ask Joshua if he looked at that, he's here, so I'm gonna ask him, right? Did you really see it as a failure? Did you, when you're using that expression, did it drive you to do better? I got the sense, yes. But what was the energy? What did you feel inside when you used that term? Did it make you feel less fulfilled? Or not? Maybe you had some objectives and it didn't work, right? And goals. And then, did you beat yourself up for it? Did it make you feel less fulfilled as a human being because what you tried didn't work? Or did you eventually look at it and go, maybe it simply was that didn't simply work and that was just part of the journey?
I think at the time, I would get really down on myself. In the moment I would, because I had expectations for myself and I didn't meet those, right? Or worse, I felt like other people had expectations for me that I didn't reach. And so I would say now, I do use the word failure a lot because I think it's one of those buzzwords that everybody talks about. But I think looking back now, I would not be the person that I am, and I would not be the coach that I am. I would not be the influence that I am on the people that have sought me out had I not had those failures. In fact, part of the reason that several of my clients have come to me specifically, even though on the outside I don't look like the type of person that maybe, especially some of these women would seek out, for a coach. I think a lot of them actually sought me out because I've been very transparent about the ways that I failed. And I think where I'm at now is I don't think I would feel as fulfilled as I do now had I not failed. If success would have just happened over and over and over, the reality of life would not have sunk in the way that it did. And so I think it makes me that much more grateful. And maybe the word fulfillment, gratitude comes into that a lot for me. I think I'm very grateful for where I'm at, and I would not be where I'm at both. In every pillar, physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, and even social, had I not failed in the ways that I did. Because I did turn most of those into learning lessons. In the times that I didn't, I would almost view as a wasted opportunity to have grown. You know what I mean? There are times that I just sulked. And I wrote it off as wow, I just sucked. And had I had the emotional intelligence probably to be able to turn that around at the time, I could have grown a lot. But the reality is, man, all of us in our stories can sit there and point out 100,000 things that we did wrong, right? But the truth is, and I've had several very wise people point this out to me lately, I also did a lot right.
Yes.
And I tend to be a very negative, I can say that out loud. I focus on the negative a lot. And the truth is, I did impact a lot of people. I've had a lot of, even last week, I had a kid that I was his drill sergeant 12 years ago. And he reached out and he's like, we still talk about you. And the thing, I was like, what? It's, so I think I do feel more fulfilled because of the failures, because I'm that much more grateful for where I'm at. Because by all rights, I think a lot of people would have quit, or I was very close to quitting several times. And I'm just grateful to be where I'm at. And the failures were a huge part of that. And I think that is actually making me feel more fulfilled, because I've come to a realization that life is not success is not defined by certain values. Success for me is defined by other things. The relationship that I have with my children right now, 6 years ago, would not have been possible. It would not have been possible because I was just an egotistical a-hole. Straight up. I was a very hard, mean person. And I failed in my relationship, particularly with my daughter, But once that came to light, it really challenged me to work on what I needed to do to be able to generate a relationship with her. And I treasure that relationship now more than anything. And that would not have happened had I not come to a place of failure, because I wouldn't have realized what I needed to work on. Does that make sense? That's a really long answer.
Absolutely.
But
no,
yeah.
That's okay. It made good sense. It made real good sense.
Yes.
Michelle was certainly agreeing with it.
I was in it. Well, no, what I was thinking about too is something that's happened for me is you set these goals, and let's say the goal takes you way longer, right? Like, oh, in 5 years, I'm going to be here. But then it doesn't happen. And you think, my God, I failed. I didn't get to that goal that I thought 5 years ago I would be here. And it was actually my mom that said to me, you have to realize, look back to where you were 10 years ago and look at everything you've experienced. Look at all the places you've traveled. Look at the friends you've made. Look at this, that. And all of a sudden I realized I have felt like I was stuck and I haven't progressed at all. And instead I had done so much. And it was just so crazy to me when she just put it that simply. Look at where you've been the past 10 years. Yeah, you may not have gotten to that goal. That's okay. This is part of the journey. And it's just, you can't sometimes put a time frame. You can say that it's going to take you 30 minutes in Publix, and then you see the BOGOs, and my God, you're there for 2 hours spending $300. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. It's okay that things take longer, or I wanted to do something and it took 15 minutes, I'm done. It's great. But I think that's a pressure we put on ourselves, and we allow ourselves to think, wow, so I failed. And a lot of times we just haven't made it yet. And that's something that I've been working on.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that I was stationed with, that made chief, which is the highest rank. I made senior, so I was one rank down. And I've had people ask me, like, does that bother me? And it did for a while, because I'm like, I knew I had the capability of making it, but I chose something different. But the truth is, like, that goal 5 years, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, my goal was to make chief and to be like a command chief master sergeant over a base, to do all of this. I could not even imagine at that time the life that I have right now. Like as a coach, I work for a hockey team. I get to have an impact on all these young men. I have, 10 clients right now that I get to work on. And that wasn't even in my scope. Like I never even thought of it. And so, I think maybe that the idea of fulfillment, the fulfillment I feel now is not, I don't know that would have fulfilled me 5 years ago, but because of like the growth that happens due to the failures that I had, I can say with complete and total honesty, I love the life that I have now, and I never 5 years ago would have even imagined that I'd even be in this sphere that I'm in. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy how you evolve over time as a person. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be able to look back. I mean, Kristen, I think you were there when at the last event that we were at together, they had us put prompts in a chat GPT, and it was like, look how far you've come. And like, you're putting your story in, and everyone in that room was bawling. Because it's like when you look back at like where I've been, where I've come, what I've had to go through to get to this point. And a lot of it, Marko, was failing, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, but it was actually just part of the growth process. I mean,
right.
Even, with weightlifting, your muscles have to fail at a certain point to grow. Right. And so
that's
kind of where we're at as human beings. Like if you're looking at fulfillment and happiness and success only in terms of did everything go right, then you're missing the bigger picture of like life. And life never goes right, dude. Like life never goes right. It's about
I
being
will
able
tell
to
you that's one of my biggest flaws is that I can't feel fulfillment, doesn't go right, and without sharing the production. Is it the pizza guy?
Amazon, the classic Amazon. All right, I'm going to take a sip.
True, we had the dogs barking. We won't be using this segment either.
I know. I was
Hopefully
like,
you'll have a nice, beautiful transition.
Get your coughs out. Get everything out.
Got my coughs out. End scene. Okay.
You remember where you were, Josh?
I mean, that was Marko was going down that path. I liked where you're going with that. Like,
my biggest flaw is that I can't feel fulfilled unless anything goes right. So I started to say, so we had a shoot at the house. It's going to be, I guess I'm confused about the episode number. And somewhere along the line, Grace was as opposed to helping me with the video production side of things, she was a guest and leaving a lot of the video responsibilities to me on top of the audio. And I hadn't yet got Gabby prepared. And so it was hard to get everything going. And just to give you an idea, like as soon as Grace mentioned that one of the cameras was stuck in slow motion, at that point I felt like I failed and I could not be fulfilled. You know, it was just like, it's those little things like, you know, you plan, man plans and God laughs is a Jewish proverb, you know? And it's kind of like, I guess, Kristen, you probably would say, I'm going to guess, and because I'm studying the teachings. And you would say that, like, thinking about, like, it doesn't always go that way for probably a reason. You'd probably say it's because the universe had that in mind for you, right? Christians would say that that's part of God's plan, right? And I've always thought to myself, in the music business, we have an adage, if I'm saying that word right in English, and that is luck favors those who are prepared. So if eventually at some point that goal or whatever you had, so for it's a band, if they get signed to a record label and they make it, right? They can't understand they're not ready. It's only people with experience who have gone through those battles, right, Josh? That, like, you know, or in the case of theater, right? Like, you know, certain things that for your experiences, Michelle, you know, as you take on maybe an understudy, you have to kind of go through it, but you have to be ready for it. And if you're not ready for it, it probably isn't going to happen.
So we talked about how we started, what we went through, where we're at. Talk about the drive that each of you has, the career paths that each of you have gone. And now we've really brought this to fulfillment. And what's interesting is your failures need to be part of how you see your fulfillment. If we are afraid of the failures, we think we have to separate the two. But when we embrace the failures, when we can laugh at ourselves, when we are driven to go beyond and to see and look back and see how much we learned from those failures, how much we grew in those failures, how much they really weren't failures at all. So yes, life gives us the stumbling blocks to propel us forward, not to disable us, but to help us see clearer, to help us move closer into what is ultimately going to be the most fulfilling experience in this lifetime that we have chosen for ourselves. So it's interesting. Each of you has brought to the table something so completely unique and different in each of your persons and your careers. And yet, when we look at this, every single one of us has gone through failures. Every single one of us has fought to meet expectations. Every single one of us has judged ourselves. Every single one of us has wanted to lay down and just cry and give up. But every single one of us has gotten back up and gone forward over and over and over again, moving towards the dream that we embrace for ourselves and really knowing that we're headed towards a life of fulfillment. So I challenge you all as you leave to think about what that's going to mean for you. What is the most fulfilling experience of life that you can have? What is it going to feel like? What's it going to be like? Because then with each failure, as we like to call it, we know we're moving closer and closer to the ultimate state of joy and fulfillment that we're looking for. So I really thank each of you for being with me. This was a pretty cool unfolding of life and how it works for each of us. Any final thoughts before we say adieu?
I guess just on that note, you know, I think it's Winston Churchill that said success is not final and failure is not fatal. But like, I think if you can actually embrace that, where it's like, oh, you know, you reached a level of success. Okay, well, that's not like nothing. I always think back to like the 1920s, the people that woke up one morning and they had millions of dollars in the bank, and then they woke up the next day and the stock market crashed and they had nothing. You know what I mean? It's like life changes literally. 9/11 in 1 hour, everything in the world changed for all time. You know what I mean? Like nothing is final, and so even in those moments of failure, like changing your perspective on it. You know, I don't know who it was that said it, but, you know, rock bottom is a great foundation to build off of. I've experienced that in my own life more times than I can count. But, you know, at the end of the day, like for the people that are listening that maybe do feel like they're struggling on those things, at the end, change the perspective if you can. You know, if you can't find somebody that will help you change the perspective, because I guarantee you your failure is not as bad as your brain is telling you it is. And I guarantee you that there are multiple routes to success from that failure. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. That was beautifully said. I want to thank each of you for joining me today. This was really a lot of fun. I hope each of you enjoyed it. And as our listeners, really, I hope you walk away with really thinking inside yourself about what you would really like to enjoy in this lifetime for yourself. What is that fulfillment that you're looking for? And where do you get hung up on your failures? And what can you do to redefine them? And like Josh said, what can you do to make a choice that shifts that perspective and steps you back into your life? Thank you for joining us. May each of you find fulfillment, and until the next time, may the magic be yours. Thank you so much for joining me, and please visit KristenBomas.com, where you can easily access all of my social circles.